Hi, it's Laura Geis. Welcome back to week 6 in the God Success Secrets video series. This week's success secret says, finish what you start. Do you have any unfinished business lying around your house? One of those projects that you started, and when you started it, you were really gung-ho on it, but never quite finished the project. Well, if you took a tour of my house, I have a lot of those laying around my house. If you walked in my kitchen, you would notice that there is a line on the wall in the kitchen where the paint colors don't quite match up, because I painted the eating area of the kitchen, but when it came to the part where all the cabinets and everything was, and I was going to have, that takes a long time, didn't quite get that painted yet. It's probably been like that for 2 or 3 years now. If you went in my basement, I have some beautiful quilt blocks that I put together in hopes of making a quilt, but they've sat down there for 15 years and I still don't have a quilt, but I will get to that one day, probably when the kids are grown. I brought another one with me. This is a cushion off of one of my dining room chairs, and I am constantly changing the fabric on my dining room chairs. You just staple a new one on, and if you saw the back, there are probably about 3 different fabrics on here already. But I've never quite gotten around to actually attaching this back to the chair, which could be important when someone needs to sit in it, but it's been like that for 3 or 4 years and hasn't hurt anyone yet, so I don't know when I'll get to that one. I have a lot of half-read books sitting on my nightstand with bookmark right in the middle of the book. I don't know if I'll ever finish those. And if you walked upstairs where all my kids' bedrooms are, you would stumble over some furniture sitting out in the middle of the hallway where we started to rearrange some of the bedrooms, and we got some new furniture and we were moving some furniture into my daughter's room, and I've just never gotten that furniture into her room yet, so it's sitting in the middle of the hallway, and it's been there several months, but spring break is coming up around here, so I am planning to get that one crossed off my list. Now, a lot of these projects that I have around my house, somehow I always rope my husband into helping me finish them off. So he is constantly reminding me when I want to start a big project, honey, you need to finish what you start before we start on another project. So I hear that a lot. But it was interesting, as I was studying through God's Success Secrets, I came across finish what you start. And I thought, honey, I guess you do know what you're talking about. In the book of 2 Corinthians, chapter 8, verse 11, God says, now finish the work so that your eager willingness to do it may be matched by your completion of it according to your means. So just the first 4 words of that verse. Now finish the work. God is interested in us finishing what we start. I heard a story of a woman who decided to begin a home business. And she was so excited about it. She cleared out a room in her house and moved a desk in and had a phone line put in the house and bought a new computer, and everything looked so official and office-like, business-like. And she even went out and got some business cards and some letterhead printed up. But when it came to doing the hard part, which was actually finding clients or coming up with a product to sell, she didn't have anything. She was just excited about starting the project, but when it came to following through, well, that was another story. And that's how we can be a lot of times with our goals. I know some of us have the same New Year's resolution 5 years in a row, 10 years in a row. So what I want you to do today is look back in your journal to that goal that you made at the very beginning of this video series. And if you don't have a journal, remember, just log on to www.godsuccesssecrets.com and you can download an absolutely free journal. But turn to that journal and spend some time with that goal that you made. How are you progressing on that? Are you progressing on that goal? I'll bet if you think back, that's a goal that you've made for yourself before, and you've started on it, and you've been excited about it, but something came up, there was some kind of obstacle that caused you to stop working on that goal. So let's take just a few moments to think about those obstacles and what it is that has stopped us in the past so that we can strategize our way through those obstacles this time, because this time you are going to reach your goal. So let me show you how this works. In your journal, write out 1, 2, or 3 obstacles that have stopped you in the past from achieving your goal. And as I just jotted down, my goal is always, every year, I need to lose at least 10 pounds. You know how women are, we always need to lose at least 10 pounds. So some of my obstacles, I wrote down 3, are right around the time when I make a New Year's resolution. We have 3 birthdays in our family, and birthdays in our family involve cake and ice cream and all kinds of treats, so that is one obstacle. Another obstacle is sometimes I'm just too tired to work out. I just don't feel like it. I'd rather lay in bed or sit in front of the television. And my third obstacle is that I get hungry. I like to eat, and when I'm hungry, sometimes I'll just grab the first thing that I see because, it's just an urgency thing. I just want to get rid of those hunger pangs. So those are my 3 obstacles. So write your 3 obstacles down in your journal. And now let's start thinking about how can we overcome those obstacles, because you know they're going to hit you again. So what are we going to do about it this time? So for me, with the birthdays, one thing, a tradition in our house on birthdays is that's one of the only days of the year when we eat donuts for breakfast. It's not a typical breakfast food at our house, but when one of the kids has a birthday, we order donuts for everyone. So we have 8 people in my family, so it's very easy for me to go to the bakery and order a dozen donuts. But you know what happens if I order a dozen donuts? The kids all eat their donut, and there are 4 donuts left over. And those are 4 donuts staring me in the face all day, tempting me all day. So what I've learned to do, if I want to overcome this obstacle, is I order 7 donuts. 1 for each of my kids, 1 for my husband, and I don't order 1 for myself. And that way when I'm passing out the donuts in the morning, I don't have one and there's nothing to tempt me. So that's one way I can overcome that obstacle. Now with the cake and ice cream, same thing. We get the cake and ice cream, and what do we have after the party? Leftover cake. So what I do now is I give the cake away to someone so that it's not in the house any longer. I'll usually eat a small piece of cake. I mean, I worked hard baking the cake. I might as well eat a little bit of it, but I don't want to eat all the leftovers or, eat all the frosting off the top, that's the tempting thing for me to do. So I give the rest of the cake away. Now, my second obstacle is sometimes I'm just too tired to work out. And I normally work out in the mornings, so one of the first things I've done to overcome this obstacle is when I'm tempted to hit that snooze button all the time, I've moved my alarm clock way across the room in my bedroom so that I have to get out of bed to turn it off. And I figure once I'm out of bed, I might as well get going. Another thing I do is I lay out the clothes that I'm going to wear so that I don't have that excuse in the morning. I make it really easy. The clothes are laid out, the shoes are laid out, my water bottle's laid out in the kitchen. I've got everything ready to go, ready for my workout. Now, my third obstacle is just the fact that I get hungry, and when I get hungry, I just grab whatever to eat. So, a couple things that would help me overcome this obstacle would be to have healthy snacks available that would be very easy for me to get to. Like when I go to the grocery store, if I would actually cut up the fruits and vegetables so they're ready to eat. Right now, sitting on my counter is a pineapple, and I love to eat fresh pineapple, but it's sitting there because I haven't taken the time to, cut all the outside off, and pineapple takes a while to cut up. So I haven't done it yet, but if I were trying to overcome this obstacle, I would get that cut up and ready to go so that I could have a healthy snack. Another way that I could overcome that obstacle would be to plan out meals and then do my grocery shopping based on those meal plans so that I would know I would have some healthy meals planned and I wouldn't just be reaching for whatever I could find at 5 o'clock in the afternoon. Another thing, when I'm eating out and I'm hungry, you know how the restaurants, if you're in a Mexican restaurant, they bring you the chips and the salsa, or if you're in an Italian restaurant, they bring you breadsticks or some kind of bread or something. Two ways to overcome that obstacle is to ask that they don't bring those things if you don't want to eat them, or before you get to the restaurant, decide how much of that thing you're going to allow yourself. Maybe you're going to say cold turkey tonight, I'm not going to eat any of that. Or sometimes if I'm at a Mexican restaurant, I'll allow myself 5 chips with salsa, and then it's time for me to cut it off. So deciding some things beforehand helped me to overcome that obstacle. So what about your obstacles? Take a few minutes today to think about what are some strategies you can use to overcome those obstacles that are sure to happen. You know it, they've happened to you before, but what can you do differently this time to deal with them so that they don't sabotage your progress? Now, once you overcome an obstacle, you will gain momentum and you will work faster and faster toward your goal. So this week, take a little time, think about what are those obstacles, and write down your strategies for overcoming your particular obstacles. And then, when you've overcome one of those obstacles, I would love to hear from you. Log on to my website, email me at laura@godsuccesssecrets.com, and I'd love to hear your strategies and your victories as you overcome obstacles so that you can finish what you start.